This is without a doubt my favorite video I get to do each year. Here is my top 10 favorite movies of 2017. There's a lot of movies that come out each year, some great, some bad. What I love doing is at the end of all of it, sitting back and looking and just doing one of my favorite things in the whole world, which is talking movies. I have said this before, I don't really like doing honorable mentions. Last year I did do one, but again this year, there were a couple of movies that I thought for sure were going to be in my top 10. They didn't make the cut, and I can't go without talking about them, so who knows, maybe honorable mentions will become a regular thing on these top 10 videos. One of those honorable mentions being It, the Stephen King adaptation that I didn't really know much about. I had not seen the Tim Curry miniseries from the 90s. It was great. The character's really fun. It completely terrified me. Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise I think is one of the best performances of the entire year. And the other one that I really wanted to put in there was Baby Driver, a really cool, slick, Edgar Wright directed action movie. Admittedly, if you go back and watch it now, given recent events, it can be a little weird, but that doesn't compromise the movie in any way for me. It was really stylish. Ansel Elgort, Lily James, and Kevin Spacey, he gave a good performance in the movie, and a rockin' soundtrack to go with it. And while I'm doing some honorable mentions, I'm throwing this one in there. Power Rangers. You guys know I loved Power Rangers. I couldn't put it in here. There was a part of me that really wanted to, and there was a part of me that also knew it really doesn't belong in this list, so that's why it's an honorable mention. Alright, let's get down to it. This first one was a movie that I really liked when it came out, but I didn't think it would make my top 10 list. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, that was a really solid movie. The return of one of my favorite superheroes in proper form, Spider-Man Homecoming. I love Tobey Maguire, but Tom Holland also really captured that Peter Parker and Spider-Man identity, and I was really able to root for him. I did get the feeling this is the kid hero that Spider-Man was in the comics. Michael Keaton was great as the Vulture, and it wasn't a Spider-Man origin story about him becoming Spider-Man, it was a Spider-Man origin story about him becoming an Avenger, becoming a hero. And for that, I loved it. Here's a movie I didn't even plan on seeing this year, then I checked it out in theaters and was like, oh my gosh, that movie was hilarious and awesome and a lot of fun. And that's Logan Lucky. Steven Soderbergh's return from his retirement, it did not disappoint. Adam Driver, Channing Tatum, the whole ensemble cast that got to do this heist was really entertaining to watch. They were really funny. I love a good heist movie. This one delivered. This next movie is one that's kind of easy to forget that it came out this year because it was so early in the year, and that is Jordan Peele's Get Out. I'd heard praises upon praises of Get Out, and I was like, I went into it, and I was like, it can't be that good, can it? No, this movie is really good. It takes a turn about 2/3 of the way through that I didn't see coming. I'm probably gonna mispronounce his name here, but Daniel Kaluuya, the main guy in this movie, you're rooting for him the entire time. You want to see him get out of this situation, and especially that last third of the movie was really exciting, really creepy. This was the first real stunner of the year. Next movie up was my most anticipated movie of the year. At first it kind of threw me for a loop, but I saw it a couple more times and I loved it. Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Is this a controversial choice? I don't know. There's such a love-hate thing going on with the fan community with this movie. I thought Mark Hamill was the best he's ever been as Luke Skywalker. I thought Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley really impressed me as Kylo Ren and Rey. The movie does have problems like the Canto Bight stuff, but the stuff that is good, like all the stuff on Octu, is so good that Star Wars just had to make the list somewhere. Oh hi Mark, the Disaster Artist. I have seen The Room a few times. The movie cracks me up. I was really looking forward to this. I hadn't read the Disaster Artist book, and I don't think I've ever seen James Franco direct a movie. Has he directed anything that I've seen? Either way, James Franco did a great job as Tommy Wiseau. Dave Franco was great as Greg Sestero. I like to think of this movie as like a weird, twisted take on La La Land, because you're rooting for these people, they're dreamers, they want to make it in LA, except one of them is Tommy Wiseau. Number 5, I like a good historical drama. We got that this year with Gary Oldman's Darkest Hour. Gary Oldman's performance alone brings this movie up to be a top 10, but the fact that the movie is just so interesting and the way that Winston Churchill in his first 5 weeks, how we had to navigate the political landscape of a country at war, and for us being able to see someone that might not play by the politics rules too well, but he knows what's best for the country, he sticks to his convictions, and even though the majority of this movie was like parliament and meetings and whatnot, that stuff was awesome. Number 4 is another movie that was one of my most anticipated movies of the year. It's the conclusion to a trilogy that I love, and that is War for the Planet of the Apes. This is another one kind of like The Last Jedi that at first I was like, oh, interesting, because I was expecting the battle or the war, and that happens at the very end of the movie. What this movie really is it's a drama. It's a character piece on Caesar, this character that we have grown to appreciate and love over the last, what's it been, like 6 years since Rise? We got to be with him through this entire movie, see his progression as a character and his actual send-off that we got. At the very end of the movie, I couldn't have asked for more. Number 3 is a movie that came out, I believe it came out in the summer, and I knew I have to see this movie before I make my top 10 list. I didn't know if I would like it, I just heard a lot of good things. Little did I know that it would be this high on the list, and that's The Big Sick. Kumail Nanjiani did a great job writing, directing, and starring in this movie. It felt like a very real romance, and that could be because it's based off of a true romance, but either way, it really worked. It was a solid movie. The supporting cast was great, the leads were great. I felt like this was a movie that didn't take the easy way out when it came to some of the romantic stuff. This was a hidden gem for me this year. Alright, so my top 2 in this top 10 list, I flip-flopped between these two so much. Honestly, they could both be number 1, but as it stands, one of them has to be first place and one of them has to be second place. So the second place one was another send-off of a classic character that I love, Logan. I'm one of those people that thinks the Wolverine is a really underrated movie, but still, Logan completely blew the Wolverine out of the water. I loved Hugh Jackman in this movie. I think Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart both are Oscar worthy. It doesn't feel like a superhero movie at all, and that's not a knock. That's not saying superhero movies are bad, but this movie had such a different feel to it. It felt like a Western. It felt like this guy, this grizzled, worn down guy who has just seen it all. He's at the end of his rope. He's got one last thing to do. He's clinging on to his life. I love stories of those old grizzled dudes like Gran Torino. This movie reminded me of that. It was a great send-off to Hugh Jackman, great send-off to Patrick Stewart. I loved this movie. And number 1, this is a movie, despite the fact that it comes from a studio that I love, I honestly had zero hopes for this movie. I went into the movie, did not know what to expect. Once I got past the 22-minute short at the beginning, what I got was something amazing. My favorite movie that came out this year was Coco. I think this is a first for me. It's the first time an animated movie has made it to my number 1 spot on my favorite movies of the year. I loved Coco so much. It was so fun, so exciting. The colors, the worlds, the voice acting, the music. It does what is admittedly a Disney trope now of the surprise villain, but in this movie it worked, and the way that they brought it all home, this is one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time, one of my favorite animated movies of all time, and of course my favorite movie of 2017. So there you go. There are my top 10 favorite movies of 2017 with a couple honorable mentions there at the beginning. What's great about film is I don't think anyone's gonna have this identical list, so let me know down in the comments, what were your top 10 favorite movies of 2017? What if any of you put the Emoji Movie for all 10 spots? Dude, it was a great year for movies. I don't think I'm gonna do a top 10 worst list this year because I had some trouble keeping up with the good movies this year, but I honestly didn't see a lot of crap. If you do want a couple of stinkers from me, Monster Trucks, Ghost in the Shell, Baywatch, Pirates, just to name a few, but I don't have 10, so I don't think I'm gonna do the list. Thank you guys for watching this video and for sticking around this entire year. I'm looking forward to a fun, awesome, movie-filled 2018, and if you like this video, go ahead and click the subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.